Well, today was a good mail day. Today, I got my Raspberry Pi 3 Model B Plus. Um, it's not my first one. I have actually quite a few of these, but pretty pumped about that. And got my Mega Pi case from Retropie. Pretty excited about that. And also got my 8-button arcade pad with USB. I was going to get an original. Well, original is the wrong word. I was going to get the connector for an actual Sega, but with the Mini coming out, these are supposed to be compatible with it, and they're only supposed to be coming with a 3-button, not a 6-button, and this is supposed to be compatible with it. Now, you might be wondering, if I'm going to build myself a Mini, which that's what I'm going to do, why I didn't get the black one? And that's a simple question, or a simple answer. They were out of stock on them. So right away, I'm also going to apologize for if the audio is jumping all over the place, because I am behind in my videos, and I'm trying to get one out every Wednesday at noon and Saturday morning at 8. In order to do that, I had to film this in many different ways. And what this one's going to be, this is actually going to be 2-part, but it's going to be a finished first part. And what it's going to be is making a SEGA Genesis Mini without any special tools that it didn't come with. So it came with obviously the case, the Raspberry Pi 3 I bought, and I got a controller. Inside the case will be some tools, but it's coming with it. Things that I didn't order would be a power supply and a memory stick, because I already had those, but still I don't consider those really tools. So this is going to be setting it up, no having to do any special SSH into it or putty, anything like that. You won't even have to actually get it onto Wi-Fi, which is something I will end up doing, but that's probably going to end up in the second part. The second part will be tweaking it to how you want it, but just getting a playable system is going to be what this one's about. And you're going to see how I actually get my ROMs off the Sega Genesis cards with my Retroid. Now, I try to always get my ROMs from a legit source, and I'm not here to preach about that part. However you get your ROMs is how you get your ROMs. I'm really just showing you how to make a classic or a Sega Mini Classic without any special computer knowledge, just putting it together. Oh, but you will need a laptop or a tower, computer, some way to get ROMs on a USB stick. So you need a USB stick too. And just watch the videos, you'll see. Okay, so we're going to put this thing together. We're going to put the Raspberry Pi inside the case. If you've put one of these together before, it's a little bit different than some of the other ones. The board's actually going to go inside, upside down. So some of the things you have to do first is get some of the items connected here. So we're going to plug in both the USB jacks. And I did look at the instructions, and this looked like to be the best way here, because as I turn the board over, it'll be facing the direction the instructions said. And then on the first set of pins, you want to set with the green wire in the connector. I wanted to say jumper, but connector. And then when you place it down, and then if you look closely, you'll see there are the 2 screw spots. And then you'll see at the top of the board, I did not put the screws in. And the reason why is you'll see my finger kind of pass through the backside. Once we put the case together, the screw actually will pass through there. So the board will get screwed down. But yeah, that's all there is to putting it in there. I use a screwdriver that came with the case. You do not need an additional tool for that. Just be careful not to overstrip, but make sure it's snug in there. Okay, so when you go to put the top on, you'll notice there's a power switch down there. And what you need to do is have the power switch on the case in the same position. That way it lines up, and when you flip the switch, it'll actually toggle it. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw all 6 of the screws in here. You'll see there's only 5 holes on the outside. One of them is actually going to be hidden underneath the compartment here. And that'll be your 6th spot there. So I'm going to just quick screw these in, and then we will move on to the next part. I will mention that if it seems like I'm going pretty fast, you can always pause it. I try to keep my videos as short as possible. I'm sure I could have actually edited them better or edited them maybe a different way. But if you knew how much footage I actually had recorded for this, you'd go nuts trying to watch all of it. So I'm actually trying to edit the best way without losing too much, keeping it on pace, and just getting it to where you need to be with it. So once you have it all screwed together, it actually looks really good. I am really impressed with this case. But in that flap that comes off the bottom, the reason for that is that's where your two USB ports and your network connection is, that normally on another Raspberry Pi game case would be on the side that has a panel comes down. But how this is designed, it's underneath that flap. And you'll see there's this little knockout piece here. And what that's for is you can actually knock that piece out. You could run a USB in there, maybe a keyboard or something, or maybe a USB extender. That way you could have a dongle on there. But also you could run a network wire into it so it's wired up. There are reasons to have it on your network, and using PuTTY to SSH in would be one of those reasons. For this video though, we're trying to do a simple setup. We will not be using that, so I'm going to leave that in there because we want to just, like I said, make this simple and show you how to build this without, really special tools. Okay, so I'm going to go to do a search on Raspberry Pi Retropie, and you'll see it doesn't take long before you get the result here. And then once you click on that, make sure you head to the download, scroll down a bit, figure out which Pi you have. I'm doing the B+, which is the 3. Probably don't, unless you're getting a 0, you're probably not doing many Raspberry Pi 1s anymore. And then that'll download. It takes a while, so for speed purposes, I am going to speed it up a little bit here. Okay, so I'm going to click on the down arrow, go to the folder, and then I will unzip this. I always hate the GZs. I wish they would just do a normal zip format. Let's try the 7-zip. And extract it here. Come on. There we go. So let's speed this up a little bit. Okay, and then right above the zip image, you'll see that now I have an IMG file, an image file for RetroPie. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to use Win32 Imager. It's a program that will burn it to this SD card right here. I'm going to stick that in the adapter and slide it in my computer. We're going to format you don't actually have to format the stick, and I'll explain why here in a moment. You need to, like I mentioned, use the program to get the image over to an SD card, and I use Win32 Disk Imager to do that. Before I even find the image, you'll see I'm on letter E. I do not want to be on letter E. I want to be on F. E is an external drive I have Velcroed to the back of my laptop monitor where I store a lot of my stuff, and that would be a nightmare. So now that I have the right one, I'm going to browse for the folder, and I'm going to pick the second one here because the first one's for my 0 I was working on. And here it's warning, this is why you don't really have to format, but I always do anyways. So we're going to speed this up because this takes a little bit also. Okay, so it's all finished. So do not format when this pops up. What's happening is it's not fully recognizing the card anymore because it's basically a Linux operating system on that card. So do not format, just, eject it safely. I just pull the card. Windows 10 is supposed to be nice on that now, and that's what I'm using, but eject it safely, whatever you feel comfortable with. Just do not format the card. All these files here need to be on that card. Okay, so take your card, put it into the Raspberry Pi through the side opening compartment, and then once you have it in there, just close it, and that part of the image is done. So here I'm going to use my Retrode. This device is actually designed for playing cartridges on your PC, and it's also a great way to back up cartridges also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to back up some of the games here. The cartridges are dirty, and the Retro probably needs a good cleaning. I probably got to do a firmware upgrade to it also. So I'm not expecting all these games to work. I'm already seeing issues as they go over. But just for sake of timing and just for your patience, if you get this far, I don't want to make you watch me actually dump every single ROM. But basically what you do is you pop in the cartridge, click a button on the front, it refreshes it as a mass storage device, basically showing you the bin file, or in my case, it's actually showed an SMS file, which is actually Sega Master System, and even a Z64 file, which is a 64. There are adapters so you can do those games on here, so I think my connections are pretty dirty and stuff that it's mistaking some of these. But some of the games are coming over just fine. So when I do a part 2 of a more tweaking of this, where you're going to want a keyboard, things like that, I'll have more ROMs on here. We just want to get it going for the first version of just getting it up and going, where you have a playable unit without needing anything real special. So Iron Man here is going to be our USB stick, and we need the USB stick for the Raspberry Pi and to get the ROMs to it. So what we're going to do is put it in the computer, and we are going to start the process of getting that ready. So my USB stick already has some stuff on it, and we need to get rid of that. So what we're going to do is just right click on the drive here, go to format, just hit start. Okay, let's close that. Let's open it back up here. There's nothing on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder. We can either go to home and click new folder, or I can just right click, go to new, go to folder, and type in Retropie. I don't know if caps matter, but I do know I've always done it with lowercase. So let's go back and redo that. Hit enter, and then, you know what, we will do this the safe way, and we're going to go here, hit that, let's eject that drive. There we go, safe to remove. All right, so now I'm going to put this and flip it upside down because the USB ports are upside down here. Actually, let's put it over here. I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make, but we're going to put it there. So now let's plug everything in. So I'm using about 50 different audio devices for this, so I apologize. Let's get the upside down, that's right. Got the controller in there. I'm going to use a battery pack for right now just because I have it here. It's simple. I like to usually run 2.5 amps off a very specific power cord that is in another video that I mentioned earlier. But we're going to run 2.1 amps and just deal with it. So we're going to plug that in. And then we need to get the HDMI into there. Get that cord off the floor. So we have a whole lot of stuff going on here. I normally don't do it this way, but we're going to try it out. So, all right. This is in the off position. Make sure my battery pack is turned on. Normally I wouldn't worry about that because it'd just be plugged in. So we'll be speeding this up a little bit. This takes a few minutes. But when it loads, what it's going to do is look at that USB drive and see it says Retropie, and it knows to dump certain folders into there. And once that's done, you'll have the folders of where to put your games and stuff. Now, only the emulators show up that you put in there. So you'll see Atari, Genesis. Well, actually, you won't see Genesis. It'll say MegaDrive. Nintendo, stuff like that. And that's not a big deal to worry about having those all in there, even though I'm only doing the MegaDrive or Genesis. We're just going to put the Genesis ones in there, and that'll be the only emulator that shows up. So you'll see that I got to a command line and I didn't actually go into Retropie yet. If that happens, that's not a big deal. At this point, we're just doing the simple way. So all you have to do is go ahead and shut it down, and pull your USB stick. You'll see I actually pulled the joystick out and it just went crazy. So maybe even just do it without having the joystick or gamepad in it. But either way, it doesn't matter. It did create the folders. So now we're going to put the USB stick in the computer, and since it did run and grab all its info, you'll see when I open it up here, and you'll see I already have my ROMs folder open, but we're going to open up the USB stick, and you'll see that once I go into the Retropie folder, that it actually has folders in it. And the BIOS and configs we don't need to worry about for the SEGA Genesis, but we're going to go in to the ROMs, and you'll see here's all the different systems. And we went to MegaDrive. All you have to do, copy your ROMs right on over. Let that finish, of course. And of course, being the good person I am, I'll safely eject it. And then we just pull it out of there. So we are actually almost at the end here. So I'm going to speed up some of this, like the loading time and things like that. But basically what we're doing is we're pulling the thumbstick back out of the computer, putting it into the Retropie. Make sure your control pad is plugged in also, if you had taken it out. And this time what it's going to do is it's going to actually look at the USB stick and say, okay, you have all these folders. Is there anything different about them? And it's going to grab those ROMs you put on there and bring them over the Raspberry Pi. So in the future, you don't have to have that USB stick in there anymore, just when you're transferring games over. And you could just keep doing that. Say you wanted to put an NES game on there. You would drop your NES ROM into that NES folder, put it back in the Retropie, turn it on, and it's going to bring it over. So like I said, this was the quick and dirty way of doing it. There is more polished ways of doing it, and if this is a video that you liked and would like to see a more polished way of doing it, I know there's a lot of videos out there on it. I really just got excited about the whole SEGA Genesis Mini coming out, and then the case for the Raspberry Pi I thought was pretty cool, and I already have all the classic units along with their RetroPie, I guess cousins we'll call it. But yeah, it's I'm going to show you where it gets in here, and it's going to do the controller configuration. So you hold down the button, it says USB gamepad, you pick the buttons you want. For anything you don't have, you just hold down the button until it skips it. When I get to the hotkey, and the hotkey is for a combination to exit out of a game. So what I do is I ignore it. That way it warns you and says, we'll use the default, and then I take that, as you can see on the screen. And then by doing that, I have automatically set it up where when I hit start and select, it will exit the game. In this situation, it's actually start in mode. I pick the mode button as the select. And as I got playing, you'll see, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some gameplay, and we're just going to wrap this up because it's been a long video, and if you made it this far, I do appreciate it. Like and share, remember. But yeah, so I'm going to just go through it. You'll see that I'm actually going to jump back into the settings and change the configure input. And one of the reasons I left it in here for to see is to show you that if you don't like how you set up the controls, you can redo it. I did not like how I set them up, so I did actually move the button pattern around a little bit. You can play with it, but nothing's permanent on it. But other than needing a USB, my own power supply, my own SD card, which I had in the house, and of course my own laptop, all I had to do was order the case. Actually, you don't even need to order the case. I just wanted the case. But you needed a Raspberry Pi and you need a controller. It doesn't even have to be that controller. But I did this because of the whole SEGA Genesis thing. If you do like this, leave comments and stuff. If you do want a polished part 2. If we do that, what I'll do is I'll actually show how you can have it just load right into the SEGA Genesis instead of being in the main screen. Where it says, you know, RetroPie and Master System, or Mega Drive, I think it says. But yeah, let's get some gameplay going on there real quick. And I did speed up that play. It was pretty obvious, but just in case, I did speed that up. It is playing just fine. The next game here, Shaq Fu, it has such a horrible reputation that I was actually happy that round we're pulling over because I feel like that just needs to be on here. In fact, Shaq Fu, I'm going to probably clip a few of the things out of here just so you can see some of the gameplay real quick. I'm going to try not to speed that up too much just so you can see it. And then I will show one of the Power Ranger games. That was actually, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out too. That felt really good playing wise. And I'm going to just clip that up a little bit too and have a little bit in there just so we don't have to speed that up too much. I just wanted the Animaniacs in there pretty good because I wanted to have some length to one of the games. And then, of course, I'm going to finish it up with NHL Hockey 94, probably my favorite hockey game, and I actually scored right away on it. If you watch my review for Super Bloody Hockey, I still have not beat the computer on that thing. That's crazy, but 94, I can still score on that one. And for back then, I actually thought the graphics were great with the puck flipping around and stuff. So yeah, like I mentioned before, hopefully you liked the video. Please share, like it. Otherwise, thank you.